We're gonna call it quorum check.
District 1 Supervisor Alejo,
Linda Gonzalez, alternate.
District 2 Supervisor Church,
Present.
District 3 Supervisor Lopez. Here. District 4 Supervisor Askew,
And alternate Anderson for Supervisor Askew.
District 5 Supervisor Adams,
Here.
City of Carmel by the Sea,
Yeah.
City of Del Rio,
Here.
City of Gonzales,
Here.
City of Greenfield, City of King City,
Present.
City of Marina, present, City of Monterey,
Here on Zoom, present.
City of Pacific Road, City of Salinas,
Here.
City of Sand City, City of Seaside, City of Soledad.
Here.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh.
All right, ready, begin. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Republic
For which it stands, justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So we're gonna do assemble for our picture before we get started.
If everyone could come up in the middle here in front of this section of the dais, and we'll be facing the screen.
Just before it's not okay. They had it after this, so they wanted to just leave. Wire.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
right about here, go ahead.
All right, how are you? Thank you.
You got it.
That's what my cane is, but I didn't think I needed to bring my cane.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay,
Thank you.
I'll help you out too.
Did you have us, do you want us grouped in our relatively, our like county, cities, does it matter? We're all. Okay.
We want to two rows. You want two rows? Two rows and act like friends. I was trying to.
Okay, a little bit closer.
Mary, can you,
Hey, Mary?
there?
Okay. I can see everyone's faces. Mary's kind of hiding behind Dave there.
Oh, yeah.
Hang
Hold on. There we go.
Range. There we go. There we
Yes, perfect. Yeah, we got it.
go.
Well, I wanna make sure he's seen. Very good.
Try over a little bit.
Maybe talk.
Oh, I got Mike in the background.
Oh, Chaps is coming here. Hold
Oh,
on.
oh,
Hey, Chaps, quick. Come on down here.
This way, this way.
just watch out for all the tripping hazards.
Yeah.
Glad you made it.
There's another one here.
The worst time to be late,
Yeah,
right?
there-
Now you have to lie down in front of him. Okay, all right. Great.
Perfect.
And-
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Just. Yeah.
Watch again. Watch the one there.
Yeah, this way's a wire over. Okay. It's a little challenging. I didn't bring my stick, so I'm underneath my chair.
Okay, there's two things right here.
One right up
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
he's got to step over.
There you go.
There you go, there you go. Oh, that was good. So,
Just leave my stick first.
that's what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, you designed it and then you.
Well, we're doing. All right, at this time, I'll move on to public comment. Is there any member of the public speak on anything not on the agenda? Is that Mike Weaver's hand raised?
Where is it?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Mike?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm calling to confirm that the board members received a copy of the letter that I sent to Caltrans regarding State Route 68 and the official plan lines, the adopted official plan lines. Did the board members get a copy of that?
I did receive a copy and it looks like everyone has noticed on that.
It was sent, yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any other member of the public that can speak on any item not on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the board who'd like to pull any items for discussion? Is there any member of the public that can speak on any of the consent agenda items? And I'll ask any member of the public to speak on any of the consent agenda items. Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring this back to board for action. First with
Second.
Potter,
Second.
second with Chavez. Roll call, please.
District 1, alternate Gonzalez.
I.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Barba, yes.
Thank you. District 4, alternate Anderson.
Yes.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rio.
Aye.
City of Gonzalez.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina. Aye. City of Pacific Road.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City. City of Seaside. City of Soledad.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to item number 4, the Transportation Agency Employee of the Quarter, Doug Bills.
Yeah.
You present it?
Yeah, Doug, do you want to come up?
So this is always the funnest part, right? Recognizing the hard work, bringing in all the dollars for our agency, where there's improvements to our community. One of the great things out there.
It sure is. So I'll read it. It is hereby certified that Doug Bilsey has been selected by his colleagues at the Transportation Agency for Monterey County as the employee of the quarter for January 1st through March 31st, 2023. The agency employees recognize Doug for his great attitude, his professionalism, and his willing to help his colleagues. Most notably, they appreciate him for his engineering expertise on roundabouts and bicycle and pedestrian projects, and for helping set up the striping plan at the Salinas Valley cities for the Safe Routes to School pop-up demonstrations. On behalf of the board and staff of the Transportation Agency for Monterey County, it is our great pleasure to recognize Doug Bilsey for his exemplary work.
Thank you, God.
Been a pleasure working on the South counties, and I like the word completed, constructed, and done. So.
And as we're taking our picture, I gotta say, the Safe Routes to School, I'm seeing the most public engagement when it comes to that. So, and in King City with Darren, they had Ariana. I am just blown away. And then they're asking about roundabouts, asking about other projects. So it's a great way to get them involved.
Yeah, and your staffs are all engaged. I've been impressed with your staff. So thank you to all of your staffs in South Carolina.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll move on to item number 5, receive a presentation on the Marina to Salinas multimodal corridor, the Imgen Road widening project. Right, and De Los Santos.
Okay, good morning, Chair, and good morning, Board. I am so excited today because you are going to have a presentation on the Marina Salinas multimodal corridor. And let me point out that this is going to be the first regional Measure X project that's going to go to construction. So we're very excited about that. Doing the presentation today is going to be Edri de las Santos. He is a senior engineer for the city of Marina, who is the lead agency on this project. Edri is going to be presenting remotely. So with that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to him. Edri, hopefully you can hear me and you can unmic yourself and go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, members of the board, members of the public that are online or in person. Yes, I am Edri de los Santos, senior engineer for the city of Marina. Been with this project for my entire career with Marina, which is going on 14 years now. And we are really excited, as Teresa pointed out, to present this project to you and to get it kicked off. So to start, we're going to be going over just kind of briefly the project overview, what the project entails, what improvements there are. We're going to talk also a little bit about traffic safety, the traffic improvements to the corridor. What is this project going to do for both the city and the region in terms of commuter traffic? We're going to talk about the final stages that we're currently in environmental clearance, and then finally do a brief overview of our funding sources. So to give a overview of what the project is, we are widening Imjin Parkway from Imjin Road to Reservation Road, from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. It's about 1.8 miles of our expressway corridor there. It's taken, yes, about 13 years for design, environmental clearance, right-of-way, coordinating with all of our interested parties. The project itself is about $44 million from design concept to final construction. Probably the biggest project that our region has done in a while. Definitely the biggest project the city of Marina has ever taken on. What this corridor is improvements to MST bus stops. We have an Army Corps entrance over by Reservation Road that we're improving. Improvements to the signal at Imjin and Reservation intersection as well. As you could see, we just passed the Preston Park or the Preston Drive intersection that we're going to be raising to better give a sight distance view for drivers. Here, as we see, this is our busiest intersection of Abrams and Imjin Parkway. That intersection will have a design that reduces the intersection delay by half. The next intersection we go to is here at Marina Heights Drive. Marina Heights Drive is also a very critical intersection for the Sea Haven subdivision, and it's part of their EIR, so we have our impact fees helping fund the intersection improvements there. As you can see, there are green lines in there. These are buffer bike lanes for our class 2 on-road bike paths. Here at the intersection of Imjin Road, which will be getting a name change.
Can you pause for a minute? We lost you in here.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of it.
Sorry about that.
oh, no worries. Here at Imjin Road and Reservation Road, Imjin Road and Imjin Parkway, we have our improvements also heading over towards CSUMB. To get a more ground's eye view of those improvements, we show a profile view of how we're changing the roadway configuration to 4 lanes. We'll also be installing a class 1 mixed-use bike path. On the street itself, we show the class 2 bike lanes with on-street buffers. We'll have improved stormwater capture devices or buffer lanes. Yes.
Adrian, can you hear us? Okay,
Yes.
we lost your audio, so do you mind going back?
Oh,
on your-
sure.
Please, so go back to the animation. We lost you about midway after you got.
Not a problem. Let me go back. Yeah, there was someone who chimed in during the video. Okay. The first intersection that we have here is Preston Drive. Preston Drive currently has some sight distance issues with some extreme grades, so we're leveling out the intersection to better have controlled traffic and sight distance improvements. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can now, yes.
Okay, great. Over here at Abrams Drive, it's our most busiest intersection. We are reducing the traffic delays at that intersection approximately by half. As you can see through the corridor, we have various improvements, including buffered class 2 bike lanes, a off-street class 1 bike path, as well as improved pedestrian crossings at all of our roundabout intersections. You just saw Marina Heights Drive. As we approach Imgen Road, which will be getting a name change, we see that this is the final roundabout of our corridor. This roundabout will also be getting a drastic grade change. Right now, it's pretty much a bowl, and we have quite a few traffic incidents in this corridor, especially at this intersection. So the safety improvements to this roundabout and this specific intersection is critical. To get a better ground's eye view, here we see a profile of the 4 lanes. You could also see here we have the class 2 bike lanes on the road that are buffered, as well as a class 1 bike path on the left-hand side. That'll go the entire extent of the corridor. In terms of stormwater improvements, we will be having on-street bioswale stormwater capture devices. And although not shown here, we'll also have street lighting throughout the entire corridor now, along with additional landscaping, irrigation, retaining walls, sound walls, a lot of improvements for the corridor. Intersection improvements now will include decorative landscaping, roundabout artwork, improved intersection lighting, also improved pedestrian safety measures, and safety measures is a key design feature for the roundabouts and for the entire corridor. In fact, the next subject that we're going to be getting into is safety characteristics for our modern roundabouts. Now, the roundabouts have various benefits. Of course, we have our environmental benefits, reduced idle time, stop delays, and overall a reduction in emission. But here the slide shows a typical crash reduction data for converting a signalized intersection into a modern 1 or 2 lane roundabout. The studies here show that crashes are significantly reduced for both 1 and 2 lane configurations. From all crashes to the severe crashes that we have. In fact, severe crashes with pedestrians is greatly reduced due to the overall geometry of the roundabouts. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has found that, of course, travel speeds through intersections have a direct relationship to the pedestrian fatalities that are hit by motor vehicles. So the roundabout geometry benefits preventing excess speeds through the major intersections, greatly reducing the likelihood of fatalities during any type of pedestrian vehicle incidents. When we look at the traffic corridor in general, we've done various traffic studies, including traffic comparison analysis for future traffic conditions. I think it's up to 2035. From Preston to Imgen Road, the travel time through the corridor with the roundabout design will be reduced by nearly 1 minute. And when you calculate that out to industry standards, it's a significant cost savings for both traffic incidents or traffic accidents and for cost savings in time travel for our regional and local traffic. Now, we have a little note down here. Emergency response effectiveness. How do roundabouts affect emergency response? Well, the way that our roundabouts are designed specifically benefit emergency vehicles. For instance, if we have a signal failure due to emergency or due to a disaster or power outage, for most corridors that are controlled by signals, it's a complete gridlock. It would turn Imgen Parkway into a parking lot. But despite power outages or any major disasters, especially when emergency vehicle responses are critical, our roundabout designs are as such to allow emergency vehicles to continue to travel through unimpeded. So we've designed each of our roundabouts specifically with emergency vehicles in mind. Now we're talking about where we are currently with the project. We are at the final stages of environmental clearance. This has been a 3-year uphill road, but we are very thankful for all the members of our State Department of Fish and Wildlife, coordinating with Big Sur Land Trust, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, our major consultant teams that have been helping us through these difficult days, DDNA, Harris and Associates. TAMC has been a constant vigilant member.
We lost you again, 1 sec. Sorry.
Oh, sure. Let me know when you guys have my audio again. Checking audio. How we doing, Aaron? Is this an audio issue just for the room, or is it also for Zoom audiences as well? It's okay for Zoom.
On Zoom.
Okay, so it's the audio for the room.
For the board chambers, yeah.
Got you. Okay. I'll take a pause. Let me know when the audio is fixed and how far back I need to go.
Yes.
Edry, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, we're back. Sorry about
Okay.
that. It's on
Not a
our
problem.
end.
That's okay. I'm just glad it's not on my end.
Yeah, right. All right,
How
you're
far back do you need me to go, Teresa?
let's see here. You were just starting to, you were on this slide here and
Oh.
non-partners and the timeline. So
Oh, that's too bad. I was giving you guys commendation.
environmental, yeah.
We'll do
I'll
that
go
again.
back and give you I'll give you praises again, Teresa. All the members here, I mean, I couldn't fit all of the emblems of the countless consultant teams, agencies, partnering agencies, and stakeholders that have been supporting the project during this difficult uphill, not battle, but process with the California State Department of Fish and Wildlife. They have been really helpful trying to get us through this process, and we are nearing its end. We're actually in final stages of legal clearance. So as soon as legal has cleared all of the agreements and easement language,
Edry, we lost you again. Sorry.
okay, I'll take a minute. Coffee break. I apologize all to those who are on Zoom for having to hear my spiel about this slide again.
I was glad to see the animation again. That was fascinating.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'll let the board know, but we'll have that animation on our project website. We're going to actually update it with some of the more recent images, the satellite images, but yeah, we'll have that online shortly.
Okay, Edry, you're back, and I was just filling in a little bit about the celebration of construction start. You're anticipating June, and then the construction timeline. So I was just going to say a bit about public outreach. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing in that regard?
Sure, I could do it. Or actually, Teresa, why don't you start, and then I could kind of fill in any things from my end.
Okay, so we've been working as a team to develop a public outreach campaign, identifying who the stakeholders are in the corridor, looking at developing an interagency task force so that we can make sure that we get all the players at the table to help us get the word out to the public about the process of what we're doing. There are going to be 2 CCT cameras on site so that people will have a real-time sense of what the construction is like and what traffic is like through the corridor. We are going to develop a project-specific website so they can continually go there to get information and also sign up for updates so that we can provide updates as to what's happening. So we're trying to incorporate a lot of the tactics that we use for the Home and Highway Roundabout project because that was so successful. So we're incorporating a lot of that to make sure that we engage the community, make sure they know what's going on. And then there are some details in terms of construction, like if there are going to be some overnight constructions, making sure that the public knows that way in advance and things of that sort. But there are going to be hopefully limitations in terms of how much overnight constructions will happen. So Edry, I don't know if you want to add anything from here.
No,
If you heard
you hit the nail on the head. We are very excited to get our project website up. That's going to have a lot of FAQs. We'll have, as you noted, the ability for those wishing to have updated notices that'll go through our website. The animation that you saw in the presentation, that will also be updated with more recent photos and also be on the website. It'll be our prime source for public outreach.
And the city of Marina is the lead on this. So if there are questions, it's actually going to go to the city and then we're kind of back up if need be. So that's, I believe, is all that you had for your presentation. So Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thank you, Edry. Does any member of the board have any questions or comments? Mary?
I'd like to just make a couple of quick comments because I lived just outside the big roundabout. And the situation was absolutely wonderful. I had to go in and out no matter what, at least twice a day. And the thing that was best that you had mentioned was the public outreach, because every day I could go online and quickly look to know, oh, I can't go this way today. You know, it was very, very, very well done. And I think even one of the radio stations, probably the NPR station, was giving like a little update, you know, reminding people to check before you go. So that outreach made it a very pain-free circumstance. And now having that roundabout is just, it's just wonderful. It really is.
And one of the other elements is that we do a weekly content report that goes out every week. And so those details are included in that, which also gets sent out to the press. So.
Through the chair, we know that this is such an important project for all of our cities. So many people come through Marina to get from point A to point B. So from the perspective of our regional transportation, this is an excellent project. And I think having big signs that say with your Measure X dollars at work is important. The other point is it available through your app? Like, does TAMC have an app? Because so many people now use this thing. Do we have any technology that would allow us to, for example, how to navigate a roundabout? We're still having problems in our city. We're still having a lot of big accidents. We're having striping issues. We're having directional signs. I mean, there's a huge education that happens. You know, we're getting used to it. And as some of us may travel to other countries, it's part of their regular, but for many of us, it's just, you know, new. So I guess my 2 points are, is there an app for people to follow the traffic, and hopefully a lot of education of how to navigate the very simplicity of this.
So where we have that information out is on the TAMC website. It will also be on the project website. So there will be a section about roundabouts and how to navigate them. And that's in fact one of the things that we're working on now is making sure that we can capture some of those videos that are perhaps already made. We have some that are from the Homeland Highway project, but we're also looking for additional information, and then also trying to find it perhaps in Spanish or create something that's in Spanish so that we can make sure that we're informing everybody about that. So there's not, to answer your question, there's not a map other than the TAMC website and the project website.
Any other? Yes.
So the report noted with 29 to 34,000 people traversing this parkway. And so I'm just wondering what sort of plans are in place to prepare the other roads that people are going to try to divert themselves onto to avoid traffic, to be able to handle people just moving themselves around in a different way during the construction period. So reservation through Marina. I know the county is getting ready to do some work on that stretch of oh gosh, I don't know what it's called, but it's horrible there.
More specific than that.
Off of East Garrison, I mean, I can imagine that community having some challenges, people try to navigate through there.
Reservation or Garrison?
Inner Garrison, yes, we're doing some work in Inner Garrison. So that's part of the plan.
That's a good question. Edry, go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah, I could jump in for a little bit, Teresa. So we have been preparing our city streets the last 2 years. We did a cold in place recycling project for Reservation Road to improve, I think it was 1.5 miles of the corridor that had some bad pavement issues and drainage issues. We've done spot repairs all along Reservation Road. We know that the corridor is going to be used more often with regional traffic. We also are staging the project in a way that we will continuously have two-way traffic on Imsham Parkway. So we are installing as one of the first phases of the construction project, a temporary roadway to allow the work being done on one half of the road, while the other half of the road, it will be continually used for regional traffic. So 90% of the project construction period will allow two-way traffic. The times that we are going to need to shut down certain lanes will be done at night so as not to impact regional traffic. We are coordinating with local HOAs and property management firms to make sure that their residents know when our night work is going to happen, so we're not adversely impacting too much the residents. But the phasing of the project in general is so to allow regional traffic to continue to flow through the project construction period.
I can just request any of that night work staging and timing be sent to Supervisor Aske's office, because I'm sure the residents will also be calling us. Well,
Yes, in fact, the stakeholder meetings will notify all the stakeholders, and we'll make sure we have periodic news notices to make sure everybody knows when night work is coming ahead of time.
Any other board members? Is there any member of the public who would speak on this item? Again, I'll ask any member of the public to speak on this item. Hearing and seeing none. Thank you, Edre. Thank you, Teresa. We'll now move on to item number 6, receive an update of the Monterey Salinas Transit Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project on the Monterey branch line. Carl?
Thank you. Should I go to the podium?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling very confident that this presentation is going to go off without a hitch. So I have a version here of my desktop. They have a version there that they'll be controlling. And while that presentation was going on, I quickly downloaded my video because we love animation. We just don't love it when it stops in the middle. So they now have an active copy there. So between all of that, we're hoping this will go off without a hitch. So again, sorry, my Wi-Fi was off. I'm Carl Sidoric. I'm the CEO of the Transit District, and I come with my own soundtrack. So here to talk about the Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project, and we're going to load the PDF presentation up that was provided. Yay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, here to talk about the Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project that MSD has been actively working on with TAMC since the passage of Measure X, but I can tell you conversations that I've personally been involved with on this project. I've actually found, while we were clearing out some old network files, a receipt for audio visual for the Embassy Suites Hotel when we started talking about bus rapid transit in Monterey County. It was from December of 2003. So it goes back a little ways. We're going to talk a little bit about our vision. Next slide. Our vision for bus rapid transit, both for this project and regionally throughout the county, the history and background of the branch line that we're working in, the benefits of the project, and our investment and schedule for construction. Next slide. So just a little background on MST. Last year, we had almost 2 million fixed route and ADA rides passengers. That's 2019, we're at about 4.5 million. So we're still coming back from recovery, and we're running. Last month we had 24% more passengers than we did the year before. So we are getting ridership back as economy becomes more active. Currently have over 30 transit lines, a $40 million operating budget, $10.5 million capital budget, about 230 direct employees who work for MST directly. So, and then 100 or so working on our contract with MV Transit. The way you know the difference, big buses are run by MST directly. Little buses, we contract that service out to a private contractor. Next slide. Next, oh, there we are. Ha, you did next slide. I didn't. Okay. Just the impact that we have on the local economy is that of that transit capital and operations and maintenance investments that we put forward each year, there is an induced income that's the personal income that people who work there is increased and they spend in the community. We have an indirect supplier effect, adds up to about $35 million of what we call a multiplier effect in the local economy based on our local spending. Next slide. So what is bus rapid transit? Bus rapid transit is the exclusive bus-only lanes. Here's an example of a mini bus rapid transit, the Jazz, where we have our own lane, we have our own light, we run through, we get an 8-second jump on traffic at Aguajito and Fremont Streets there as you enter Highway 1. Frequent service of 15 minutes or better, level boarding so that people with disabilities or wheelchairs can step directly onto the bus and we don't have to deploy a wheelchair lift and take the extra time. Fast fare payment systems like our contactless credit card and debit card reading systems, the traffic signal prioritization that you see here in this demonstration where the buses get priority signalization. We also incorporated in this project traffic signal coordination so that the 24 lights along Fremont and Lighthouse in Monterey were all coordinated and signalized so that even if you weren't riding the buses, cars, individuals in their cars move faster. We'll be implementing the same technology on the SURF. And overall, a unique brand. This was the Jazz. We're coming up with the SURF for this project, and overall decreased travel time from point to point, end to end for the passengers. Next slide. So our vision for MST, our brand, is connecting communities, creating opportunities, and being kind to our planet. And this project hits all those notes. Our vision for bus rapid transit throughout the county is we've completed the first leg of what will be a countywide bus rapid transit system, was the SURF. The next leg is connecting Sand City, Marina, and Salinas with the SURF busway. We hope to then take advantage of the Imjin Davis Road Parkway and provide service from our 5th Street station. We'll also be able to move through those communities for buses between Salinas and the Sea Haven and other communities along Imjin Davis Road. And then an extension out through the Alice South, where we have a very high concentration of transit-dependent people who are that we serve, and then all the way down, perhaps using bus on shoulder. We've done some feasibility studies of bus rapid transit all the way down Highway 101 corridor through to King City. Next slide. So a little bit of history and background. The rail corridor that we're operating, the SURF, will be operating between Marina and Sand City. It was passenger rail service starting in 1881 through 1971, so nearly 100 years. And then freight service continued all the way through the 1990s. TAMC purchased the branch line for transit purposes, public transportation purposes, back in 2003 using state Proposition 116 funds. So we are now at a point where we can implement that vision that TAMC had in 2003 with a bus rapid transit corridor service through that corridor. Next slide. So in 2014, TAMC supported the asking MST to look at bus rapid transit as an option through this corridor. We conducted a feasibility study in 2018 after the passage of Measure X. And we looked at bus on shoulder of the highway. We looked at using the branch line as alternatives. We looked at no build alternatives, and the branch line alternative, utilizing the branch line, was the strongest performer compared to all the other options. Where we are today is fully funded. We received over $50 million just in the past 9 months from state and federal sources through our partnership, having $15 million of Measure X funding, leveraged another $27 million in state funds, which then leveraged another $22 million in federal funds. So, it really speaks to the partnerships and how, when you can bring local money to the table, these transit operators start taking, or these funding agencies start taking you seriously. And we'll be the first fixed guideway of any sort of length in the state of California between LA and Oakland. So this is a big project for this community, and will be very transformative. Next slide, please. So here's traffic conditions. This could be any day. This just happened to be a day. I was day before a presentation I was going to give in August of 2021. I pulled out my phone, said, what's traffic look like? That's just Google Maps. Frankly, that could be a Saturday morning. That could be a Sunday afternoon. That could be any day of the week. I was considering looking at it this morning, but I got a little bit delayed. So you have significant delays right through this corridor every day. Next slide. And there's the MST bus full of passengers. We are currently on this route, line 20, which we're calling the SURF, between our busiest trunk line between Salinas and Monterey, through Via Marina and Sand City. We're having standing loads now are being reported by my own employees who commute into work. So there you have a full bus with standing loads moving just as fast, or not fast, what's the opposite of fast, just as slow as everybody else through this corridor. So they're really not getting any advantage by taking the bus, other than it's less expensive. Next slide. So this project will create within the rail right-of-way, without you purchasing any private property. We will be with leaving the tracks in place. We'll be implementing 2 lanes in between the bike trails and the pedestrian trail, the Caltrans bike trail and the coastal trail. We'll be operating a 2 lanes north and south between Marina and Sand City. So the buses traveling from Salinas will be able to exit at Pullman Del Monte, get out of traffic, and continue to move. We're creating a new transit station at 5th Street. And then where you can make local connections to the VA DOD clinic, the Dunes projects that are going on, CSUMB, connections to the Imogen Davis Road Parkway services that we'll be having there as well. Then on to Sand City, where we have a major transfer center. And then people can transfer there to buses, or stay on the bus, and the bus will then re-enter traffic at Del Monte and continue all the way on to Monterey. Next slide. So I think I just said all this. The things I didn't necessarily mention: transit signal prioritization throughout the corridor, starting in Marina, as well as in Salinas. We're adding a mile of bike and pedestrian trails and making some important connections there, making it easier and safer to ride your bike and have pedestrian connections. The 5th Street station, we're calling that a mobility hub. We'll have a bike station there. We'll have a bicycle repair location there, so that if you're on the bike trail, you can, we have like a vending machine and a little workshop that you can buy inner tubes, air, compressed air, that sort of thing. We'll have the ability for transportation network companies like Uber and Lyft. We'll have the ability for rentals of electric scooters and that sort of thing. That is the vision. So this isn't just a bus station. This is a mobility hub that will provide direct access to the coastal trail and will also serve the dunes and the surrounding communities there. And then finally, as we exit out at where the big Scribble Hill is, the big dune there on the side of the highway, that's a very complicated intersection. We're hoping to simplify that and put in a small roundabout there that will ease traffic heading south onto Highway 1, or from those folks that are coming off of the highway or off of the busway, will be able to then enter traffic on California. Next slide. Okay, so there you see a map of, kind of giving you the locations, starting at the Marina Transit Exchange. Buses coming from Salinas will be stopping in the Marina Transit Exchange. Now, for the scope of this project, really at the Marina Transit Exchange is where all the infrastructure work really starts, the traffic signal prioritization and coordination, and then a new station at Fifth Street, also Palm and Del Monte, a platform, Fifth Street Station, and then Sand City Station. We'll be making major improvements to that. If you ever go into the Sand City Center there, that interchange again is outdated. It's very hard to get through, very congested. We're going to be fixing that as well. So again, even if you never ride an MST bus, you will be able to have faster service through the corridor, through the traffic signal coordination, and easier access to the Sand City Station. Next slide. So here's just who's being served by first generally in MST. Within a 3/4 mile of any MST bus, there's a population of 392,000 people that are within walking distance of an MST bus, easy walking distance. Just within the SERVE project alone, there's over 115,000, nearly a quarter, 20 to 25% of the population of Monterey County itself is within walking distance of a bus stop that will be served by the SERVE. Next slide. And you can see that there's high percentages, significant percentages of people living within a short distance of a bus stop with disabilities, seniors, veterans, people of low income, communities of color, jobs, and currently a relatively small percentage actually using transit today, because there's not necessarily a benefit. If you get to take the opportunity to sit in a 40-seat bus that's holding 52 people, and you get to travel just as slowly as everybody else on Highway 1, it's not much of a selling feature, right? So we think that there's an untapped market here that with faster service, we know from our surveys of people who ride the bus and even people who don't ride the bus. People who don't ride the bus are more likely to consider riding the bus if we can get them there as quick or faster than the standard bus, which this project will do. Next slide. So here's a look at the existing conditions. It's not particularly pretty, but what this really shows you is that we're kind of in a gully below the freeway and below much of the existing bikeways and pedestrian ways. So we'll be building these lanes along the side of the tracks, keeping the tracks in place so that at some point in the future, wind rail becomes viable as a solution, as our population density increases over time and the technology for rail becomes cheaper over time, then we'll still have the rail in place for the future. Next slide. We can either attempt to run this via the link, or we can run it straightly from your desktop. I would suggest running it from your desktop if we have time for a quick video.
Oh, is that one that you?
Yeah, that one that
Okay.
just run it from your desktop. There you go.
This one?
Yes. Now we get the music. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. We're almost there. I appreciate your patience. On PDF. There you go. Okay, next slide. All right, so okay, so yeah, these are what's the station that's at Palm and Rhine Del Monte and Marina. I'm not going to get into a detailed discussion of that here. Next slide. And the Fifth Street Station, which you saw, these are very detailed renderings that we've been doing at various city planning. Continue. And California Fremont, the roundabout at Sand City, how we'll be exiting and getting back on. Should be almost do it. Go ahead, next slide. Sorry, California Playa, the mall there. You just saw that in the video. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. I want you all to be able to move on to other business. Continue, next slide. And continue. There we go. So again, connecting communities, you saw that this has great benefits, mobility benefits for seniors, persons with disabilities, veterans, low-income residents, time savings using transit. We'll be able to provide more service with the existing resources that we have by bypassing traffic, as well people who are not using the bus, just following us in cars. You'll see increased shortened travel times. Next slide. And we are using a skilled and trained workforce, providing access to employment, education centers, increasing, and for your local communities, having this high frequency service for your housing community development funding. This becomes an opportunity for you to show, to gain access to funding that might not have been available to you previously. So having this service will help your communities for new housing, affordable housing projects. Next slide. And then we'll be using 100% zero emission buses. I could give you the metric tons equivalents, but why we thought it's more meaningful, there's conversions out there. That's about 1,500 acres of forest every year that we're providing that same benefit of clean air, reducing traffic by a 500,000 trips per year, lowering overall vehicle miles traveled, and as I said, 100% zero emission buses on this busway. Next slide. A wide cast of supporters from communities. Thank you if you see your city up there. Thank you, your organizations, elected officials. It's a real unicorn of a project. I was just talking to some folks meeting prior to this with 3CE. I don't know how many projects you've seen, the Monterey Peninsula and Salinas Valley Chambers of Commerce jointly supporting along with Landwatch. It's a bit of a unicorn. You don't see them very often, but when you do, it's pretty special. Next slide. And so we've had over 100 community meetings with over 2,500 participants so far. We're not done yet. We're having a big one June 10th in Marina. We're going to invite public to attend. We're at 65% design, and we're going to ask the public now to start giving us input on things like design of the stations, input on design of retaining walls, and we really want to hear from the community because it belongs to all of the community, and we want to take their input as we build this so that it reflects what you all want to see in each community. But you can see from the comment cards, we're getting some very positive comments. Next slide. Fully funded. This was more important of a slide now before, but again, thank you to TAMC. Thank you for Measure X. Thank you for everybody who's put this funding quilt together. Couldn't have done it without you. Next slide. And so here we are. We're looking at cutting the ribbon on this and opening it up in early 2026, first quarter 2026. We're at 65% design. We're using a construction management general contractor. We've hired Granite Rock Myers to help us with that. So we're currently in the process of getting coastal permits from the Coastal Commission, from the City of Marina and Sand City. We're preparing for that process currently. Next slide. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Yes.
What do you anticipate as far as environmental impacts are concerns? Especially when you're building right along the coast, because I know recently I've been informed that the city of Salinas is facing like $1 million mitigation fee for a hybrid gecko or something like that.
Yeah, so we were received a categorical exclusion from the federal government for our NEPA. We were found exempt from the CEQA. However, we are also as part of that categorical exemption, we're committed to while that you saw that corridor, the picture of the rail, there's a lot of ice plant and non-native species in there. There are some spine flowers, and we are going to be replacing at a greater than 1-to-1 ratio those native species in other locations. We're working with a variety of community partners. So we will have a net benefit to the species, and we have that included in the budget. That doesn't happen for free, but we've contemplated that. And so, not only will we be improving access to the coast to jobs by low-income communities, we're going to be improving the habitat by restoring environmentally sensitive or endangered species elsewhere along the coast.
Thank you.
Following up on Mr. Sandoval's question, generally has TAMC or has MST completed habitat mitigation plans overall for jurisdictions, as he's talking a little bit about, only because Marina is in the middle of completing theirs. One of the only entities we've been really, was just on a tour yesterday, observing Sanguilia, which only grows in our area. It's on the endangered species list. It only blooms within a certain small time, which is now, and within certain hours. So my first question is, where is MST or TAMC with habitat mitigation? Is Sanguilia in this footprint? And then I have one more.
Okay, I am not as close to the specific details, but we have biologists working on this project. Those biologists are working with the state, with the cities, with regional parks, and we will be mitigating all environmental aspects of this. So it will be taken care of. I can't speak specifically to what percentage of Sanguilia are there. Where
will you need a take permit in order to do anything?
I believe we have that. I think that was provided to us with our NEPA certification, but I don't want to. I would like to we'll take that as a question. If TAMC staff could record that question for me, and I will respond to the whole board completely and accurately. I don't want to give wrong information on this. So I'm pretty certain though that we got to have it taken care of, but I do want to. I'll reply formally.
Okay, then I do have a follow-up.
Sure.
Just really quickly, perspective is we have a Second Avenue extension that we were planning across the way from this project, and we have found a lot of Sanguilia that we're having to mitigate in higher numbers than ever, because Fish and Game or Fish and Wildlife now is coming down on jurisdictions with these habitat plans. So my next question is, with the environmental clearances that you're pursuing, do you anticipate any problems? Do you anticipate challenges? And what part of your presentation you talked about studies and alternatives? How come shoulder access? You said one was more popular than the other. What was your measure?
Shoulder access actually created more environmental issues than using the existing rail right of way. And that is in our, we have submitted an application to Coastal Commission, and they did ask us to review that in some detail, which we did review that from an environmental standpoint. And we found that the bus on shoulder, because the shoulder is not wide enough in many parts for this, that we would have to expand the shoulder, and the amount of take that would be required for bus on shoulder was greater than what we would be doing by staying within the right of way. With regard to Fish and Wildlife, what your city's going through. We've already been through that process. It was a 3-year process. And we have their blessing to move forward. And they provided us with the mitigation measures that we needed to perform in those areas. So if the concern is from a fish and wildlife perspective, we're through that. And it was a much longer process than I anticipated, but we're there.
Thank you.
You asked about TAMC projects and other projects. And literally every project has habitat mitigation issues that we have to work through. The IMGIN project that in Marina that Edry presented on, they had originally identified 8 acres of St. Gilead habitat that needed to be mitigated. And then State Fish and Wildlife came back and said there was 43 acres required after that was initially submitted. And the staff's been working through that process. And that's typical, that ratio is much larger than was expected, but it's typical that we have to deal with those types of things in every project.
And the Fish and Wildlife came back, and we, part of the reason it took so long is they've asked us to mitigate more than any other project to date in Monterey County, more than even state parks and the Dunes program. So we're doing more than any other project, and we're complying with what Fish and Wildlife has asked for. And our impact, you need to remember this corridor is only it's about 30 foot wide. It's only 30 feet wide. It's 6 miles, but it's only 30 feet wide. So the actual square footage isn't that great when you compare it to housing or other vertical construction. It's a very narrow strip that we're affecting over a length.
Is it in the existing footprint?
Yes, 100% within the existing footprint. We're not taking. We're either in the existing footprint of the branch line, or we're within an existing Caltrans right of way, or on a public street. So it's 100%. There's no taking of any private property or anything like that for this project. We probably wouldn't be at 100% funding if that were the case. That's why we were so careful about designing it the way we did, because the federal process and the state process becomes much more complicated.
All right, we got to other board members. Any comments or questions, chaps?
Yes.
Alejandro?
Thank you. Carl, first of all, 20+ years of dedication and commitment. Congratulations and thank you for taking this forward. I also, the questions that have come up, I believe what you're doing will hopefully pave the way for the rail line and what we can do with the rail line in the future.
That's the intent.
This seems like everything's interconnected. I was just curious. You mentioned that this is for buses only. Is there a way that it'll be controlled for buses only to be?
Yes. Yeah, we'll have access control on either side of the right of way. That there'll be a gate feature that our buses have the technology today to initiate. So that we will be able to control access to the right of way.
Got it. And seems like it's lining up well with the Indian Parkway widening.
Yeah, we hope to be the second Measure X regional project under construction.
And actually, I would count this as a third, because the King City MST fueling and maintenance facility was Measure X funded through a loan and then through repayment of the TIFIA federal loan. So that was the first regional Measure X project, Indian Parkway, and then Surf.
All right, so MST 2 out of 3 in fact.
Yeah.
All right.
I think more ways to advertise TAMC, which is great.
I agree. These projects should be heralded at the Focus on the Future conferences and those conferences that where folks are looking for public-private partnership.
Last question. So 60 odd million or 66 odd million totally. 20-year time span, right? But has it grown or substantially over time? Any comment?
I imagine it has. I think when we were, I don't know what it was in 2003. We were so far behind. So I would say since we were first looking at it in 2014, 15, 16, I think we were looking at more in the 50 million, 55 million. We have this 66 million is projected out using inflation factors out to year of construction. So we're anticipating it's not going to cost more than that because we've already taken into account inflation at this point. Earlier on in the project, when we were, coming up with our estimates, as we're getting closer to it, the price, as always, it goes up over time.
Thank you.
Not much of a question, but I did notice in the video, slide video that you had there, there was Spanish language that was going underneath while the person was speaking. I'm just wondering if possibly there could be one that's done in Spanish, because I noticed that the language that was utilized was a Google Spanish. I wasn't correct Spanish.
Okay.
So when you look at it, I was reading it, there was at least 15 words in there that nobody uses. So I would suggest that you take a look and have somebody who's a native Spanish speaker to take a look at that, or have somebody do a voiceover on that.
We will do that. Well, I won't be asked more than once to do that. That'll be done.
A great presentation, Carl. We can tell by your enthusiasm, you're really excited about this thing and did a good job. I'm kind of interested in going back to that, and it's going to be a good advantage for Marina and all that development going out there in the future. I was looking at that Highway 1 congestion thing. Okay, that congestion thing ain't coming from Marina right now. It's coming, I don't know what O&D data you have, but all the people that are on Highway 1 creating all that congestion aren't coming from Marina. So how is this going to relieve within the next 2-3 years of operations? How's this going to relieve the congestion on Highway 1? And then how is this going to help our hotel workers and all that coming from elsewhere in the county? Do you understand my question?
I do, and I'll challenge one assumption there, though. A recent study done by the MCHA in 2018 showed that, in fact, Marina was the probably primary source of hospitality workers, and then secondary to Salinas. So there is a lot of impact between Marina. There's a lot of traffic there. So part of the impact on Highway 1 will be that, but also as people, if you're sitting in traffic and you see the bus going by and you realize that you could have been on that bus for $2 and maybe arrived at your destination faster. Some people, that may be what takes them to get their car off the road, and they consider taking transit instead.
If I'm coming from Santa Cruz, though,
Oh, yeah.
Can I park my car somewhere and get on this thing?
Not today.
No, I mean in future.
Yeah, you could park it at Fifth Street Station. That will have a parking component there. So you could park at Fifth Street Station and go, but generally, once someone's in their car, they've made the choice. If you're not walking or biking to a bus stop and getting on the bus at the beginning of your destination, your trip origin, you've already made your choice. It's rare, unless you're in the Bay Area or something where you're driving to a train station and getting on. For this area, you make your choice pretty much when you leave the house, whether you're going to drive or take transit.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay, any other board members? Is there any member of the public like to speak on this item? Ask any member of the public to speak on this item. Hearing and seeing none.
Oh, there's someone behind you, Chair.
Oh, God, sorry. Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Carrera. Would you mind going to the slide that shows the bus route? If you don't mind?
Sure. I'm not sure what number that is.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I am sure.
Back. There you go. Forward.
Oh, sorry.
That one? Nope, next one. Go again, forward. There we go. Right there. Yes, sir.
And so, looking at this map, I don't see any route to North County or South County. Are they included on this?
Not in this phase.
Not in this phase.
Yeah. So when we go back to the vision, we do have a vision to South County. We have this fall, We will be getting this funding this summer to start service this fall. And that's as specific as I'm going to get right now, for service to Gilroy through North County, through the Prunedale Park and Ride. It used to be the line 55. We're going to at least take it to Gilroy, and from Gilroy, you can take a bus to San Jose or a train to San Francisco or a train to Sacramento. So that'll be happening, not as part of this project, but as a.
And the route to Gilroy is not Monterey County, but the route to Gilroy, will that include Castroville? Will that include Pajaro? Will that?
You could make connections from routes in Castroville and Pajaro to connect to the route that's going to Gilroy.
Because all of those little cities are part of Monterey County and they're paying extra Measure X tax for TAMC. And also South County, you got 5 cities down there and they're not able to take advantage of this project.
Of this project, not yet, but of future projects. And all of those communities that you spoke of currently receive MSD service today. And they will be able to make connections to these projects. So,
but not this kind of,
not yet.
MSD, sir.
Yeah.
Quick project.
Not yet. It's part of the overall vision though. We can only build it in bits and pieces.
So what's your ETA to include all those other communities that are already paying extra Measure X tax?
I don't have one.
All right, I just want to make note of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work that MST is doing for our residents in our communities.
Alrighty.
All right, now we'll move on to our reports from transportation providers. Our first one is the Caltrans report. Is that Madeline? Oh, God, sorry.
Good morning. My name is Kelly McClendon. I'm the acting deputy district director for planning and local assistance, District 5. I have a couple of construction announcements and then a couple of US DOT funding announcements for this morning. First, last week, our crews were out in King City resuming construction on US 101. And you may have seen it, we shift the closure from the number 2 lane or the right lane to now it's a closure to the number 1 lane, the left lane. And that is in effect during weekdays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it is closed in the afternoon peak, or no, it's opened in the afternoon peak and then also weekends as well. And we'll have an ETA on how long that closure will be in place in about a month to 6 weeks. On Highway 198, we recently went into a full closure at the eastern limits of Monterey County. And that is to repair some storm damage from this past winter storms. The closure is about 20 miles east of US 101, and which is about 5 miles west of the Fresno County line. So some residents in the Priest Valley area will not have access to go west during the duration of the repairs. And the closure is expected to remain in effect through the end of May. The Priest Valley residents will be able to travel east toward Fresno on 198 for a detour. There will also be, and this project is being managed through our District 6 district, and there will be pilot vehicles that go through the closure that will also provide an opportunity to go through the construction area. But those pilot vehicles will be operating about once an hour. So that would also add about a delay of an hour. And those pilot vehicles will be running 6:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Okay, one final construction update for current projects. Main Street in Salinas at Casentini Street. What we're doing there is sidewalk rehabilitation. That started on Monday of this week, and it's an emergency sidewalk repair near the corner of Casentini. The repair is to correct some undermining that resulted from the surface underneath the sidewalk. And so that will, the shoulder and the sidewalk will be closed on North Main Street, full closure 24/7 until the end of this week. During the closure, there's a temporary pedestrian access route in place for pedestrian traffic detours. And there's a Monterey Salinas transit stop that has also been closed this week. And we've been working with MST on that closure as well. So those 3 construction updates, and then a couple of funding program updates out of the US DOT. The first one is last week, the US DOT opened applications for an $848 million program known as the PROTECT. And that's the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. So that's the full name of this program. The program is geared toward reducing damage and disruption to the transportation system and toward improving the safety for the traveling public. So it's geared toward climate change resiliency and resistance, and also addressing the needs of disadvantaged communities, especially disadvantaged communities that are most vulnerable to some of these hazards. So the notice of funding opportunity for that program opened last week, and the deadline for that is later this late summer, August 18th. So that's the PROTECT program. The second program I'd like to share is another US DOT program known as the Safe Streets for All, or SS4A. This is a $1.1 billion to fund projects that improve roadway safety. Application eligibility includes MPOs, counties, cities, towns, and special districts that are subdivisions of a state. Also certain transit agencies, and then federally recognized tribal governments, as well as multi-jurisdictional groups. So that notice of funding opportunity is also open, and I encourage your groups to look into those. The deadline for that funding opportunity is July 10th. And then one more announcement for general statewide announcement on zero emission vehicles. California recently surpassed 1.5 million zero emission vehicles last week. And so that achieves, or that meets the goal that was set in place by Governor Brown in 2012 to hit that sales number of having that many zero emission vehicles in our fleet. And so our state announced that in a joint statement last week between Caltrans and several other state departments. So that's a big milestone for us in terms of zero emission vehicles. That's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, board members, yes.
That's my favorite presentation so far. Sorry, MST. Just because, you know, roads are like #1 thing I hear, you know, at every meeting I'm at. And I'm excited about Castantini that you mentioned, the sidewalk repair, and that particular neighborhood. I'm new, so I'm not sure about whose jurisdiction is what, but I've had some residents reach out about the traffic light, and somebody informed me that it's not a city controlled traffic light. I'm not sure if that's correct. But the wait times for some of those residents have said like 12 to 15 minutes before they're able to turn. And so a lot of them say they actually U-turn, which is really dangerous on that road because we're trying to deal with traffic velocity there. So I'll reach out to you privately via email, but you mentioned that street, so I wanted just to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Other board members, yes.
So I'm not sure if I missed it for King City 101 and the 198. Are there project completion times for that yet, or estimates?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because there is a connection actually between those two. The King City project, we don't have an estimate because the materials that are needed for that project are being obstructed by the 198 project. So that's why we won't really have an ETA until about a month or 6 weeks for the King City project, because we need the 198 project to be reopened before we can get the materials back in for the King City project. So the 198 project will be reopened at the end of May. So that's why the timing kind of is about that much time for us to have an ETA on the city project.
Anyone else? Quick comment. So as you're wrapping up into King City, when you take the southbound off ramp for Canal Street and you're gonna make a left turn, part of the beautification grant, you're gonna do some, Caltrans will be doing some work under there, underneath the underpass. But there is a section of the dirt that is just enough out, becomes an obstruction, especially for smaller sedans. And you have to pull far out into the walkway to see what's coming. So when you get to that portion, if you could reach out to the city so they can identify that area, it just needs a little shaving. And then it would be a really nice unobstructed view of oncoming traffic.
Thank you. Do you know if that project that you're mentioning, that's the Clean California project that?
Yes.
Okay. So I can get in touch with the project manager for that and then relay those comments.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, let's move.
And Michael, yeah, actually, I do have one
Yes.
question. I know that we have the shutdown of the 101 happening on May 8th through the 11th. Is there any updates on that? Is there any changes to that? I know initially in Soledad.
Okay.
The traffic will be going through Front Street onto Soledad from 8 p.m. Through 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's going to be a huge issue for all the thousands of commuters and people that travel on that road. I know initially about a year and a half ago, Caltrans was saying that it could be done in 3 days, but they were holding it for 4 days in case they needed to do the sealant that they're doing on the bridge work. I'm just wondering if we have any good news at this point that it may be 3 days instead of 4.
I can double check with that. I know that when it comes closer to time, so I'll double check on that on the schedule for that. Also, when it comes closer to time, we coordinate with TAMC on getting those announcements in the weekly road closures report that TAMC puts out, and we'll also be putting out our press releases, sharing information about that. So just a plug in for those information resources, but then I'll also check to see if there may be any updates to that schedule for the 3 or 4 days.
So just so that everybody knows, there's going to be a closure of the 101 from 8 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning on those 4 days, at least for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, now we'll move on to Monterey Peninsula Airport, Bill Sabo.
Okay, man, thank you. We always appreciate the opportunity to kind of hawk the airport here. And the presentation I make to you is, I'm trying to speak to you as representatives of your cities and in areas around Monterey County. One of the facts of life in our business at the airport is the more people that we have using the airport, the more flights that we can offer. And it's important to occasionally mention the airport in your various cities here. We're trying to divert as many people as we can from that trip on 101 to San Jose as possible. And now we have a lot of service out of Monterey. So we've increased flights year over year per month by 16. We have 2 flights from Dallas Fort Worth and 3 flights a day from Phoenix. That allows you to go anywhere in the world, rather in quite an easy fashion. United has 2 flights a day from Los Angeles, 1 to Denver and 1 to San Francisco. And Alaska has 1 per day to San Diego and 1 today to Seattle. Those Seattle, Denver, and Dallas Fort Worth all allow you to go anywhere in the United States and in the world. And that it's a myth that it's more expensive to fly out of Monterey than San Jose. And also factor in when you get off the airplane in Monterey, you're home.
You're home.
And so anyhow, I'm sorry for all the pitching, but that's my nature, you know. So we got a supplementary grant for a new fire engine, and I'll come to that elephant in the room about the fire thing in a minute. We have a partnership with WeatherTech, the Raceway. And if you ever wanted to see a full Formula One airplane car up close, we got one parked in the lobby of the airport. Just stop in. It's free parking for 30 minutes in front of the airport. I thought it was kind of cool, and I'm not even a car guy, you know. So and then we're sponsors along with United of the Big Sur Marathon, and that's becoming an increasing has increasing popularity, and it's bringing a lot of passengers into the airport here. So moving on to the elephant in the room here, as you probably reading, there's a lot of commotion going on about fire service from the airport here and the city of Monterey. We've had, you understand that the airport is not owned by the city of Monterey. We're our own independent special district. We're self-supporting. We don't get tax revenue, you know. So it's important to understand that, and a lot of people don't get it, you know, on all that. But anyhow, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had an excellent partnership with the city of Monterey to provide fire services for the airport. As part of that deal, they would service Ryan Ranch and other Highway 68 locations for EMS services and fire services and all that. Work very well. But the 5-year agreement is coming to an end, and two things happen. One, we have to renegotiate the contract. And then second thing is we're moving the firehouse from the south side, with south side being where the terminal is currently, to the north side, because our master plan calls for building a new airline terminal. And so we had to move the firehouse. Well, that caused the Monterey Fire Department a little bit of problem, because they would increase their response times off the airport. And they also, so they doubled their price over what we had been paying. And we're talking like $1.7 million more. And that kind of pinched us a little bit. And so they resubmitted, and we also had a civilian contractor, called civilian, they're a private contractor that has certified firefighters, engineers, and all that. And so they had competitive bids, and so we, because we're so happy with the city of Monterey's fire capability, and we know all these firefighters, they used to work for us before we started contractor it out. They came back, the city came back with a revised proposal, and the price was right, but unfortunately, they are still going to go off the airport to service Ryan Ranch. And that leaves only one firefighter left at the airport. And we can't fight a fire. We can't take care of situations at the airport with one firefighter. And so we kind of are trying to discuss how to proceed forward and maybe continue the same great services we've had in the city of Monterey, to dispel a myth. We're not trying to do this out of greed or anything else. We are doing it for maximum safety. And I think the city of Monterey wants to cross the runway, and the FAA and the airport don't think that's a good idea, to be driving a fire truck across the runways with airplanes landing. So that's the kind of crux of it. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of things reading the newspaper. It's very complicated. And so we're trying to do the best we can. We'll probably be making a decision as to what to do tomorrow at our board meeting. So having said all that, I just want to take the time to explain what explain about what you're reading in the newspaper. And so thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Christina in the chat room.
Mr. Savo, thank you for your update. I appreciate it. Having recently spoken with somebody from your board on another matter, as we're waiting here, talking here about transportation issues, and I use the airport as often as I can.
Oh, good.
Some of the exhibits upstairs, and some of your, as you're walking to get your I always have my marketing hat on as you're walking to get your luggage. It struck me that that was a really good opportunity to highlight some of the things that transportation wise we're doing and also our cities overall. Maybe that's another offline conversation. But it struck me that the art installations, while they're fantastic, if I'm spending time and I'm looking around, it's idle time for me, but it's also an opportunity to capture some of our travelers. So as we're talking about the surf line and we're talking about some of the ways to like sort of cut our commute time, it sort of had occurred that maybe we could talk a little bit more about how to.
Okay, that's a good idea. And so you know, we don't control what the exhibits are. I think it's the art association or some other group that decides what they're going to put up there. But I think it's a good idea. And I will bring that forward to
Sure, as you
airport
walk
staff.
away, walk near the rental cars. There's like an ad for Stevenson and some other Visit Carmel kind of thing. In my mind, it went to what about the rest of the communities and also what about our transportation?
Sure, I'll bring that up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Oh, Mary.
After Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, I like that idea too. I see a lot of room there. Let me put it that way. There could be art, but there could be something else too. But I wanted to comment on your, actually, thank you for the fire updates. I know we've been hearing that in the news, but I won't get into the fire updates. I just wanted to comment that I'm actually traveling on business this afternoon from Monterey. And I've actually traveled with my family.
That drive worked, right?
Yes, yeah, yes. And I traveled with my family from Monterey to Florida. And it was a wonderful trip. And I was just letting you know that, letting everybody know for that matter, that on the personal front as well as on the business front, we found lower fares from Monterey. So it's something that we do need to, I would say, advertise more often, as you put it. But just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love our airport.
Oh, good.
I will be flying out of it this afternoon.
Everybody's leaving town. Am I missing something?
Yeah, you never know. But I do have a question because it's clearly, I thank you so much for the update. It did clarify a lot of things that I've been hearing that have not been quite on point. But the question that I have, I really am hopeful that we're going to be able to work it out with the city of Monterey. I want that so much and put fingers crossed. And did want to ask a question about the fire trucks crossing the landing strips. Is that not something though that places, you know, like the other airports do all the time that would be controlled? I would think that would be something that is totally a controllable, safe to make circumstance.
Well, I'm an aviator, as you may know, and I kind of share your opinion. Other jurisdictions don't have that problem. When we did the extension and built Fort Monterey there, that big thing on the end of the runway you can see from Highway 68, we did that because Congress said you got to have this extension there to guard against airplanes running off the end of the runway. So when we did that, we had to do an EIR on the thing as we do on every project. We got sued by the Highway 68 Coalition and said, you have a 2-lane road that goes around the end of the runway. And you can't have that because we don't like it. We think you're going to build a shopping center on the north side of the airport. So in order to settle the matter at rather great legal expense, we agreed to bring it to a one lane perimeter road around the end of the runway. And now the fire department says we can't do that because it may be obstructed by a truck or something like that. So we can't use the perimeter road. And the FAA said, we're not going to let you cross the runway. You know, that we kind of own the runway and you can't do that. So we're kind of stymied here. And so I'm trying to answer your question. From the aviator standpoint, I don't think it's that big a deal, but the FAA did, and they kind of govern most everything that we do. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else?
All right, now we'll move on to Monterey City's Transit, Laura Sidor.
I think you've heard enough from me today. I'll just add though.
Love it, Carl.
That not only can you get to anywhere in the world from Monterey Airport, but you can also get to Detroit, which is where Bill and I are from. And I'll be going there in May with my entire family. And the tickets are so inexpensive. Even my millennial budget conscious daughter is coming down from Santa Cruz to fly out of Monterey because it was less expensive for them for flying out of the Bay Area.
Good.
So with that, I'll just also add, if you're anyone, just while I've been sitting here, if anyone is getting text messages from random numbers that says it's me, it's not me. So they're not coming from my phone, but someone has got my name, and I'm getting text messages and emails from folks saying, are you trying to contact me? While we're televised, I'm not sending out any text messages. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? We'll now move on to Monterey Bay Air Resource District. Rich Stedman? Oh, Dave.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Dave Frisbee, Planning and Air Monitoring Manager at the Air District. Rich Stedman is out on a conference, so I'm his alternate today. The main thing we've got going on at the Air District is the DMV collects $4 off of every registered vehicle in the 3-county area. And they pass those funds on to the Air District. As many of you may know, Air District does not regulate mobile sources. The Air District only regulates stationary sources of air pollution. So this gives us an opportunity to direct funds for incentives to reduce emissions from mobile sources. So it was passed by Assembly Bill 2766 about 30 years ago. So this program's been going on quite a while. We're directing funds to government agencies for funding different projects like roundabouts, adaptive traffic signal control, and medium duty fleet electrification. A couple of examples we've got, one that's current is the County of Monterey has a roundabout that they're preparing to work on at Reservation and Davis Roads. And then the City of Salinas received a grant from us a couple of years ago for a medium duty fleet electrification. So there's 3 different trucks that they've destroyed and then replaced with electric medium duty utility vehicles. So that project was just completed. You might have seen it on the news recently. We also use the funds for electric vehicle incentive program and the electric bicycle incentive programs that are available to the general public. So those 2 programs, electric vehicle incentive program, electric bicycle program, are going to be available beginning July 1st. The grants for local agencies, government agencies, is opening up. The application period is opening up on May 1st, and will run through June 30th. So we hope to see some really great projects coming in. And if you have any questions about funding for some projects that in your jurisdiction, feel free to give me a call at the district office or look online for our application forms. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Any members have any comments or questions? All right, we'll now move on to reports of meetings attended by board members or transportation agency expense. I don't think we've had any.
I don't think we have any report.
All right, move on to item number 9, executive director's report.
Thank you. I've got 3 items I wanted to share, and I hope you all noticed the huge check that's sitting over there by the snacks and the coffee. On Monday, Secretary Tobes Obashakin from the California State Transportation Agency had a press event in Santa Cruz where they awarded TAMC this check for $2.27 million for the Pajaro and Wattsville Multimodal Transit Hub. That's our train station connecting along the rail corridor between San Jose, Gilroy, and Salinas. So this allows us to continue working on that project do some additional design work and update the CEQA and produce the NEQA document for the project, which will put us in better position for funding, for future funding. So this is a great step forward on that project. And I want to especially acknowledge the hard work of Alyssa doing the grant application, and Christina on a lot of legwork towards it. So we're very excited about getting that award. The second item is that the Fortag segment 1 through Delray Oaks and Sand City is moving forward. Mike Zeller's done an exceptional job on doing all the legwork to get the final approvals done. And last night, the city of Delray Oaks approved the supplemental agreement. Last week on Thursday, the city of Seaside approved their supplemental agreement and the revised alignment for Plumas. And prior to this month, the Regional Park District approved their supplemental agreement. So we will be submitting for our funding allocation on May 1st, and that will be an allocation for the end of June from the California Transportation Commission. And that's the step that we need before we can start construction. And with that, I also want to really acknowledge the city of Seaside staff, Mayor Oglesby and the staff, Nisha Patel, Leslie Loreno, and Sherry Damon. They all pushed really hard to keep it on schedule to get this segment approved. Every project has challenges, and one of the challenges here was we had difficulty with Pacific Gas and Electric to keep the Plumas alignment in the electric distribution corridor that was originally designed for. And we had to do an alternate on the city's alignment in Plumas. And they really worked hard to keep us on schedule and get it to city council in time. So I just want to pass that along. Thank you. And then finally, we got notice last week that Senator Padilla has submitted the Pajaro to Prundell G12 corridor earmark request for $1.8 million as part of his submittal package. And that is a very first step towards a rather long road of actually getting money. But you have to have that first step before it gets into the final appropriation bill. So that's good news. With that, the presentation.
Any questions? Start with Ian, and then we'll go to sorry, Andrew, and then Christina.
No question. Just a quick comment. I want to thank Todd. I think we had some misunderstandings about what was on the agenda, and he reached out and we were able to resolve it. So I just want to say kudos to our executive director for, making the call to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you. My question is, does TAMC assist with the mitigation issues that the cities have? Just because on this Veranda roundabout, like I mentioned earlier, we're facing $1 million charge for a hybrid gecko. And it's my understanding that the hybrid gecko is not even on the endangered species list. So I'm a little concerned. So I was just, do we offer resources?
We try to make connections between state agencies and individuals that using our relationships that we might be able to help keep the discussion moving forward. That's generally our role in those types of things. And be happy to talk on the side of you with your staff and see if we can help. But it's unfortunately every project goes through that process. I mean, if you have a habitat or species that needs to be mitigated, it's an adventure.
Thank you for that. No, I mean, I understand we want to mitigate things, but just because, if we'll say it's, if it's on the endangered species list or something like this, but this is not. So I was just kind of like a little confused, but I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Christina?
I didn't have my hand up, but I will take a moment to say that I really appreciate the work of your staff, TAMC staff. I watched the news and saw that check presentation, and I was very thrilled because as we talk about one of our goals is being kind to our communities, our environment, and also looking at things through a lens of equity, being able to connect Pajaro and the communities up north into our system is the vision. I know that. So I want to say thank you very much for that work, hard work that you're doing.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to the last item. Any announcements or comments from transportation agency members or matters they would like to put on the next agenda?
Sorry, I keep asking. I wanted to just make an announcement about something. Is that okay? That's the time to do it. I was looking for the number here. real quick. City of Marina is in the process of unveiling the grand opening for its pump track. And it's happening May 13th in our city. And if any of you have children or any of you were BMXers back in your day, imagine a roller coaster of on a bike. Okay, it is going to be the largest, I think, in our tri-county area by far. It is the largest in Monterey County. So it is located across from Denny's. We're going to have a roundabout and some transportation improvements there. It's from 11 to 2. Everything is free, from food to giveaways. It's an excellent workout for anybody looking for some exercise. We're not too old to get out there. And we are looking for helmets, bikes to rent, or bikes to give away. So if anybody has an agency or a hookup or anything like that, I was looking at perhaps MST, perhaps, this is going to be the way where it's located is encouraged everybody to bike there. And it is at the edge of town, but there's communities all around it. We're going to be fixing the striping and the streets. So it's going to be pretty awesome. It's very close to the beach. It's going to be a draw. The other one is Manzanita, and there's one over at Ramsey and Watsonville, and there's one in the freeway at off the freeway in Santa Cruz. So again, just imagine this. It's a couple walls. It's quite exciting. I was out there on Friday, and I might even get out there myself. So anyways, I want to invite all of you, not just yourselves, but your families and your neighborhood. Everybody is invited. Again, 11 to 2, grand opening of our pump track at Gloria Jean Park, May 13th in Marina. You're all welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Carl? Just say that you can also put your BMX bike on an MST bus. For the pump track.
Sounds like you want to be a sponsor.
All right, anyone else? All right. Hearing and seeing none, I'll adjourn this meeting at 10:55 a.m. Thank you, everyone.